Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Now it's time for our first webinar on our system. Immediately get down to action. My name is Yuri Andreevich Kuzmuk. I'm the head of the Exzotron company and its ideological inspirer. Today we'll be showing our new cloud solution Exzotron Bot, an autonomous load system and a system of controlling deviation in continuous. Here is the first picture. In order to discuss the primary plan of the system, I suggest going through the sections. I will voice a certain section, and in the end of the section you can write the questions in the chat. Or we will make a temporary mute, that is, it will be more interesting. The screen now shows a general layout. We need to discuss it in order to have an understanding of how everything works. Let me note that the prescriber for the creation of this system was the evolutionary process of organizing fuel from the chronosphere, because the first stage was the organization of all kinds of control over the movement of stationary objects, fuel control, and the various sensors. Many companies within the framework of all these systems made the automation of various filling stations and fuel trucks. The next step was the development of the current system. First, our device is a programmable device Galileosky, which allows you to send data to the monitoring system. One and the second server sends data to our server. This device is installed either in various models of fuel dispenser of our production. There is additional equipment in order to install the device in almost standard dispenser of various manufacturers and obtain system information. Below are the options for identification methods. These are identification methods by card, chip identification, the ability to dial on the keyboard. In some cases, a demanding client wants identification by barcode on a waybill, and it is not yet been shown but already implemented. This is identification by phone. Then we see that our service itself consists of several parts: cloud interface, application based on Telegram bot, and separately the 1C configuration module, which we will consider a little later. Temporarily, I will switch to the Galileosky terminal to show the principles of implementation. We now have the Galileosky device connected. The convenience of the Galileosky device is that it allows you to independently organize various software algorithms, which allows you to work out various logic. How else today the capabilities of the Galileosky device distinguish it from other terminals? On the basis of our server, it allows us to organize not just data transmission, but work in a two-way format. In the conventional monitoring system, the device basically sends data to the server, or server user can send more commands. Working without server, an additional opportunity is implemented when the Galileosky device can sample data by request for online mode in case, for example, we need to make an organization of recipients of more than 10,000 people. We understand the storage of all these cards is impossible on the device. In the case when the card is presented, the mode is possible when the device makes a request on a separate IP port to the server, samples the data, receives it to the device, compares and tests in logic. At the moment, such an operation cannot be performed with the typical monitoring systems. Such an implementation is realized on our server. We sure can say that it's done for the first time. Our service is located at 5g.exotron.ru. Now the basic startup interface is presented. What we see? At the top we have a grocery system, the ability to select a product, selection period, different language options, English localization, and options for choosing an interface type, night and day. Now in the video we have the current company webinar highlighted. For example, we go to the companies, we see at once a list of companies that are available to the user for selection. Now we have chosen a piece of the name of the some variant of company and accordingly have selected. Depending on the selection of companies, we have a complete selection in all directories within this company. It also sets its time zone and option for the cards, limit or unlimited for the initial option. We choose the first company, go to the list of objects. Here we see the currently connected device, type of the product assigned to the onboard terminal. I would like to point out that now we can only have one type of product per one device. Next, we see the time of the last received messages. Unsent messages, in case of any problems with the card programming, we have unsent. We see them in a separate log. the status of the device, and importantly, we see a log. This is a status that indicates whether messages are being exchanged with the device or not. In such cases, if we have a log installed, we add cards. The cards are not added to the terminals. If we remove the log, the complete list of all access cards is automatically uploaded to our device. I also note that when adding any new access card, the entire list of fuel cards and their limits are sent to all onboard terminals. On the left side, we additionally have the ability to configure terminals, but we will not consider them now. Here we go up to the first log. The first log is the management of access objects. Here we see a list of current objects for obtaining fuel, their number with the possibility of inserting a P code. There is also an opportunity to select the type of card: employee, car, capacity, supplier, counterparty for designations. Card status: limit or unlimited. The column balance to display the current status of the balance. The column daily limit for the possibility of sending the current daily limit. There is the ability to substitute employees from a separate directory and the ability to set up a warehouse associated with the current plastic card. We also have a lock-unlock pad that the user can click to control. After turning on the lock button, we immediately send card blocking commands to all onboard terminals within 15 seconds with the ability to edit. To add a card, we just need to go to the bottom of the list, set a new name of the card, show the number, select its type, and press the plus button. After that, the card is added to the system. In the column balance, we see the current state of the balance, but if we have the unlimited card, then we have a cumulative fuel consumption from the beginning of a registration of the plastic card. We now see how many liters have been issued since the beginning of the registration of the plastic card in the system. I would also like to fix the moment in the near future is planned for the convenience of using on top of highlighting such a parameter as company division, so that it will be possible to select in the card not with the entire list but within the framework of the company divisions. Also on the left side of the list, it is planned to add such an opportunity so that for each card it will be possible to specify the node on which the commands for assisting the limit will be sent. The first section is balance management. And we immediately see during the selection how we were given fuel from the current day. Below we can see the current balance, that is, how much fuel was dispensed for the current day. For example, I will try to change it to the 24th. We see immediately there is a recalculation, and we see that we have issued 137 tons for the current period. When you select a card, we get a list where there are such operations: transaction number, card number, name, how many liters of fuel and from which node it was dispensed. There is also an opportunity, if necessary, to make additional selections, card both by name and by number. When we click the checkbox by nodes, we see the same information but already in the context of fuel delivery nodes. Highlighting a gas station, for example, today's date, when highlighting one or another gas station, we immediately see the issue of plastic cards. When changing the period, we see a recalculation. I would like to note that this system has implemented a system for working with a single-page application. When working with the interface, the screen doesn't update. The information is loaded instantly at the moment the user selects a particular period. For a demonstration of working with the different products, we will now select a temporary different company that works with the different types of fuels. And for example, we will see an access points list for diesel fuel. Now we choose gasoline. We immediately see completely different plastic cards. When choosing products, we change the list of cards since the cards are tied to one product. Several types of fuel can be assigned to one card number. We switch back to the demo company, and now I will demonstrate how credit cards are created in the balance management section. We choose any plastic card, we choose another selection period. In the section of the left list, we see that information on the card is displayed in 3 columns: the column debit, credit, and the column balance. We see changes separately in the implementation of fuel. On the right in the list, we see how everything happened. For example, we see 1169-200 implementation and separately a curl. In order to make an additional charge of the card, we can indicate 100 liters. We see an increase in the balance. If necessary, it's possible to enter a reversal operation. Let's say I enter 50 and we accordingly see a decrease in the balance by 50 liters. On the basis of the daily limits separately in the section Access Objects, the user has the opportunity to set the daily limits on the card. We also have the opportunity to see the current balance of the daily limit. After we set the options, the devices are automatically programmed, including the daily limit. In this case, the principle of the daily limits is that it is reset every day at night. For example, we add the total tone limit to the user. The daily limit is 100 liters. The driver will be able to receive a total of a tone, but not more than 100 liters per day. At the same time, the system is equipped with a synchronization of limits. That is, if the driver receives 50 liters on any dispenser, then a message about changing the limit is automatically sent to our terminals, so the driver will not be able to receive more than 50 liters. The next section is the Fuel and Lubricants Warehouse Management section. Before entering it, we will consider the options of customization. We have such a situation. When working with the fuel and lubricants warehouses, one warehouse has 2 tanks for 20 cubic meters each. One filling station consumes fuel from these 2 tanks. The same situation is that at one gas station there can be 2 filling stations. One is high speed, one is ordinary, and it also uploads fuel itself from one or another container. In order to group and reduce all these containers to one warehouse, our system implements a separate container designer, and we can set the containers, link them to the storage department, set the product type, total volume. For containers, it is possible to register the sensors, enter the calibration, indicate the data source from the device. Calibration can be downloaded from a text file in the Omnicom format. For example, we have several default sensor types reserved. After setting up the list of containers, the fuel dispenser units are designed. Here we see that the nodes in the fuel dispenser are being tied, and based on these constructors of warehouse, we get the following capabilities. The first level is the output of the current information about the containers, where we can immediately see the current balance of all containers, percent, the current temperature value, if it's configured. When you press the diagram button, we have the opportunity to see all the containers in the grouping mode. If it is such a need, display additional sensors on the diagram. I can allocate a separate container, but the most interesting mode we have occurs with the buttons Display by Nodes. In this case, a tabular section is displayed in which we see information of all fuel and lubricants warehouses, of all filling stations grouped in the context of warehouses. The fact is that on the right side we display the extreme time. In this case, the time is not set to 23:59:59. We will change it so that at the end of the day we always have the default time of 2359. Well, it can be changed here. What we see again, the total volume of tanks according to the designer, initial fuel balance at the start date, fuel receipts, consumption according to meter data, final balance by levels, and final balance by counters. Click on the diagram checkbox to see what really happens. To date, the bulk of all reports are implemented through the 1C product, that is, reports are now being implemented. For example, let's choose the date 23/25, fuel and lubricants warehouses by nodes of the diagram. On this interface, we now see the display of diagram on fuel consumption and receipts in the context of fuel and lubricants warehouses. I would like to note that in the diagram by warehouses, the fuel supply doesn't take place in the basis of level sensors, but on the basis of readings of fuel dispensed from other warehouses using plastic cards. Take, for example, a gasoline tanker where we see a problem. We see that on the diagram we have a red tab, which displays the fuel consumption by the meter. In blue, we see the actual remaining fuel level in the tank. Here we see that when receiving fuel, we should have and had more fuel according to the level sensors that came from the meter. Thus, we recorded the fact that the filling station which dispensed fuel overflowed, or it could have been the fact of the thief. But in this case, since we see that we have a cumulative deviation, we fix the moment that we have a problem with the fuel accounting. For example, let's choose other filling dispensers. We see a problem in accounting when we had a refueling and refueling data was received not by the level sensor but through a separate log. A separate journal is implemented in the system through which it is possible to register the flow of fuel from primary documents so that the information displayed in the system corresponds to accounting. That is, the receipt occurs according to the documents at the moment when we click the checkbox. So when working with warehouses and with the diagrams, we see the column receipt, column 27622 didn't come from the level sensor data, but came directly from the invoice. Thus, the user can see the current deviation and quickly react on it. Now we highlight the techniques and see the current situation that we have. In the deviations column, we see the current deviations that we are experiencing. How does our problem fundamentally differ from other systems? First of all, due to the fact that we use the basic Galileosky device. Therefore, all the data that we see directly in the control monitor we receive one-to-one as part of a satellite monitoring system, including the fuel report. And we know that it is very important to receive all the same reports on the delivery of fuel and reports on the control of the supply in the tank. The main feature that distinguishes our system from other is the graph alignment technology. To the date, the technology of superposition of level sensors and fuel meters is not supported by other systems. At least, it's unknown to me. Now on the screen, we see an example of operation of the latest version of Omnicom sensors, which have shown themselves to be pretty good when working with large containers. We see that there are almost no fluctuations in temperature due to the fact that they have applied a high-quality thermal compensation mode. If we take the density coefficient and multiply the value of liters to mass, you can get the mass of fuel. In the near future, we plan, in addition to displaying information in liters, to provide information on mass based on those sensors that will not have temperature deviations. Today, many monitoring systems, such as Velon, Ford Telecom, and Omnicom, maintain reporting on the control of fuel flow into the tank. We also plan to organize this support within our system in the form of IP mechanism of connecting monitoring system and providing the same reporting. Now we can see LS5 current work on the chart. The results are very good. My question is, let's say during the initial setup of our program, or the customer is already using it, and there have been some malfunctions with the software, how is technical support provided by your company? Please tell us more about this. Look, first we have a general technical support group on Telegram. Technical support works almost all days without days off, including on holidays, even in the evening. If any problems occur, of course we also connect to the technical support of the user if necessary. We work directly with the specialists at the facility to identify some points and promptly resolve issues. I get it. That is, you are connecting remotely. Thanks. This is a fundamental point. It's just that sometimes difficulties arise when setting up, especially when you use the product for the first time. In this regard, we try to react quickly. Look, from the point of view of software, there is hosting. If necessary, it is possible to supply the server to the client, and everything will be stored directly on the client's server. Our technical support works almost around the clock, although from 10 p.m. or from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. it may not be available. The access technology is organized in a slightly different way. We have companies, the company has owners of Telegram ID, and then access rights are transferred through the Telegram application, and it is possible to provide various interfaces. A different interface can be assigned depending on the access level. Sorry, I wanted to ask about technical support. For example, we have a time difference of 7 hours with you. In fact, it turns out that the technical support as such will simply be absent. I understand the question. Look, such situations, if they occur and if you have such tasks, we can discuss separately. I think we will adjust. Okay, we will discuss. So good. Let's switch to the next application. The second application that works for us as part of the system is an application organized on the basis of the Telegram Messenger. Here we see almost the same menu. We can go in and see the same accessors with different control mechanisms. This is direct mode in conjunction with the onboard terminals. I can, for example, connect to a gas station and send service commands. We see the sending of commands and the response of all devices. If you need to send a large number of commands, I'll show you now. Here we have copied, pasted, and now we can see these commands processing. The server implements a guaranteed message delivery mechanism. In case the device was offline or this was a loss of sending messages, a mechanism was organized so that not a single message would be lost. In addition to the mechanism of working with objects by commands, we also have an opportunity for engineers to connect new onboard terminals via SMS. It is enough to select a command in the menu, write a phone number here, send, and the server will automatically send the message, necessary SMS, and register the device on the server. Additionally, there is various sending of templates on onboard terminals for initial settings, for downloading algorithms, which facilitates management and eliminates user errors during the initial setup of object connection. In the section Access Control, the users can see a list of plastic cards for work. It is possible to create a new tag, change tags, or change that status. I choose a card. Here we see a current list, the current balance of the cards. Let's try to block someone's card. We pressed block and our card simply disabled from the list. We want to turn it on again. Here is it, our card. We turn it back on by pressing a button. At the same moment, this operation is registered on the onboard terminals. If we want to create many new plastic cards, for example, I will show you how this happens. Arbitrarily create card 1, card 2, and say card 3. If we understand that we can have a large list of cards, it is not convenient for us to add them via the web. We can prepare them in a text file, insert here, and they will automatically be registered on the server. For example, let's go to the web. Go to the section Access Objects, write the word card. So we see that our cards have already been added. They had added here as unlimited because the unlimited mode is set for this company. So the user through Telegram has full ability to add cards by his own. It is also possible through Telegram to change a limit on the cards. We go to Balance Management, select the item Move, select the type of product that we want to move. Further, for example, we want to see the cards that we then registered. To make it convenient for us to work, we select Access Objects. Here I write the word card 3322 and see what is displayed here. Now we only see cards. That is done for convenience of working through Telegram. We go to the Balance Management section, click Move, select the type of product, and now we see all the cards that have a card in the word. We choose card 1, add 100 liters here. And accordingly, we see the commit of the transaction. The information about the operation number is constantly going on. For example, we go back, we already see that we have 100 liters for the current card. To test, we can return our 50 liters. From here, we go back. Oh, sorry, I didn't carry out the transaction with a minus. Wait a second. Now we are bringing back 100 liters. Okay, that transaction went through. So we see that on card 1, we already have 50 liters. Now let's try to go to the web service and see our movement through the web form. Let's reset the filter here just in case. Next, go to the Balance Management section. Type our card here for search. Here is our card. We see that the actual balance of the card is 50 liters. And in the list, we now see the current transaction which was carried out through the Telegram bot. That is how the transit movement of this information occurs. In addition to the possibility of accruals in the Telegram application, here you can see reports. For example, let's select Reports by Node, select the Sum column and Reports. We will see the current fuel delivery for the current day. If you have any questions about the Telegram application, you may have the voice connection. For access issues. When I go to Telegram, list of objects, we see the owners of the current company. We also see that there is a part of objects which I have marked with asterisk. This means that it was me who was granted access. In the company section in Telegram, it is possible to grant access or disable access permission for the company. When you have a client, you register his company and then you can give permission to the client for access. Specify the access level. This is an administrator or gas station operator. Select a company, enter the Telegram ID here, manually or from the list. if this user has already worked with you. Well, we probably finished our review of Telegram bot application. Let's go to section 1C. The Exzotron server has a separate set of IPs for working with building of organization, the possibility of adding various directories, plastic cards, and managing their access. For example, I am now showing methods of working with plastic cards. We see that there are methods for adding plastic cards, removing plastic cards, blocking, unblocking. Further, we have the opportunity to work with accounts. You can get the balance of the current account by IP or get the transaction on the current account. A distinctive feature of data integration in 1C in comparison with conversational monitoring system is that we do not have dirty data. After processing all the data, users load ready-made transactions into their management systems, which do not require additional processing and can be immediately used for accounting. In the case of integration of monitoring system, as we know, that when processing the issue of fuel already at the level of the monitoring system, different processing of raw data is required. Conversion, the selection and other go to the same report that shows the monitoring systems. Based on this IP, the mechanism of our Modular 1C application is implemented. We have a question regarding the NPP sensors. Yes, today we have already received the equipment from NPP Sensors company, implemented tests for receiving all this data on the onboard terminal and transferring them to the server. But unfortunately, so far there has not been a single implemented project exactly with a living company that will offer automation data and output to our server. But such a possibility exists. I will note, by the way, that is a plan to organize a new method accounting to the readings of NPP sensors. We know that it outputs mass, outputs the actual volume, but doesn't give the same liters, for example, reduced to temperature, as the sensors give to the Omni companies. Therefore, the server level through data processing we plan to give not just the volume, but also additional liters reduced to 15 or 20 degrees in order to obtain data similar to that in the monitoring system. Because when using MPP sensors, we understand that the features per liter will vary. How the system works in condition of poor communication with the car. Well, firstly, we can use two types of terminals, 7X terminals with GSM communication and 7X Wi-Fi terminals. The corresponding system is set to operate in both communication and offline mode. At the moment, when the onboard terminal in a car at a gas station is out of communication, all work takes place autonomously. After getting in touch, all information is sent to the server. I'll read if there are any more questions. Regarding the card 12345678890, on the basis of the algorithm, such a mechanism is implemented that in fuel is dispensed without a card, via bypass, the algorithm automatically generates the card, and thus we see the issue without a card. At the moment, we work with the terminals only on the Galileosky company because only their terminals support the possibility of programming. As far as data transferred is connected, as far as I know, Omnicom Online must support Galileosky. That is, this is the only way to resolve this issue. A distinctive feature of the Omnicom sensor is that, despite the fact that the temperature sensor is in the head, it is nevertheless attached to the central rod. The central rod has thermal conductivity. Thus, we get the average temperature with the container so that we understand that at different depths in the container we have different temperatures, and only have average temperature over the container we can get high quality readings. So, I read the question. The refueling tanker on which the dispensing would have failed, whether it will be possible to temporarily disconnect from the general accounting so that the general accounting doesn't go astray. To be honest, such situations didn't arise. Our challenge is to ensure that data always comes in. But if such need arises, when of course we have implemented this in software so that you can tick the box and the data were not taken on someone's object. But I think that such a task is hardly necessary. It is possible to disable data reception from containers, but not for transactions, because transactions must always be received. I think these elements can be discussed and we will resolve this issue on the basis of our server. As of today, we have integrated with database of the Topaz company server. In the near future, it is planned to integrate via IP with Automatica Plus and Benza. If you have the same task with Omnicom software, we will take on this task without a question. The main task is to make on the basis of our server a mechanism of consolidating various systems, GLONASS system, Topaz, Benza, Automatica, in order to give the client the final aggregate data for the entire company. The goal is to make the center of consolidation. Based on 1C development environment, we have implemented a modular 1C configuration, which is presented in our screen. It contains standard reference books based on basic reference books, which allows it to be quickly integrated into various accounting systems in the shortest possible time without any additional modifications. Nevertheless, this modular configuration can work separately in the form of a presented module, while due to the organization in management forms, we have the ability to work both on a computer locally and publish it in order to work with it via the web. Let's take a look at it. We have a separate section, Constants, where the user specifies the connection settings. These are find companies, our server address, login and password. After that, there is an opportunity to get to the directories and by pressing the button load data to load the current tags. Here we see that we have loaded the current labels. We can select their types, make a selection by product. If there are different products, in addition, we can also create fuel tags here, and they are automatically uploaded to the server. In addition to the current directories, which during the initial setup are finally automatically loaded from the server. Once this setup is performed in 10-15 minutes. In the section Assignment of Limits, the user in the tabular version has the ability to calculate fuel limits in the form of a list. By the way, remember, we recently performed an operation and now we see that in the 1C configuration we already have those transactions that we made manually. When organizing a common mechanism, our responsible users can, from the phone or from the web, charge certain fuel limits, and they automatically go to 1C. I will also note that the 1C configuration is useful. When working with large lists, if the client needs to carry out 100 or 200 objects daily and carry out some kind of accrual operations on waybills, it is convenient to do it in 1C using tabular forms. In tabular forms, we have the opportunity to charge with a large list of plastic cards, which is impossible, unfortunately, neither on the web nor in the Telegram. In addition to the Calculating Limits section, we have a Product Dispensing Statements section, where once already accumulates the accrual dispensing of fuel in the context of dispensers. As a result, we give various reporting options for the accrual and write-off of fuel. Look, the cloud server is the Exzotron Bot server itself. The cost of the 1C configuration is retail price today. I think it's around 81,000. It is sold one time and it's not tied to the cloud server. Payment for the cloud service. At the webinar, I can only announce the retail prices. Today, the price of the cloud service for one object is 1,600 rubles. one filling station according to the number of devices Galileosky. It is very easy to calculate. Using the IP, the client can independently modify his 1C, have transactions in any accounting system. If there are no questions, I can additionally go over the equipment at the end of the webinar. Directly, IP is displayed right after the package on the side. All methods are described here. Yes, for one object per month. There are warehouses in 1C that just are not displayed in the menu because they are the basis reference book for 1C itself. In addition, within the framework of 1C, it is planned to organize mechanism for the inventory of residues. Look, in the section of service functions, we have separately in a whole series of directories, warehouses of companies, where the user can create these warehouses, separate divisions of the company, contractors, vessels. By the way, the vessels are specially organized in order to implement the connection of third-party monitoring service for organizing the reporting of the control of the inflow in the tank. Completely the work on these reference books, both the selection of lists and the addition, are completely transferred to the Apple. They can be created completely remotely. For example, take the methods of working with constructors. We see get a list, add to the cart, the same as with the storage. IP for working with warehouses. There are all these possibilities. Get a list of warehouses by company, recording a new warehouse. Any other questions about IP1C? It looks like no. It is planned to implement control of inflows to the tank on the basis of the balance management section. If you select a position here on the right, we will simply add the columns input to the tank and the columns deviations. Users, when we have run out of 24 hours, will be able to immediately observe deviations for the formation of a reaction on some node separately to form a reaction, or they could receive reports. In this case, it is planned to upload the actual receipt in the tank via IP to our server. It's our server that will connect data from Vialon. Vialon does not need to take data from our server because the Galileosky devices immediately be directed to Vialon and you will receive the same data here. And due to the fact that an algorithm that works in transaction mode is applied, our reports will completely coincide one-to-one without any deviations despite the complex reporting settings on the server. The algorithm has already generated a specific number of transactions to the server. It is possible to simplify the selection technology for building reports. From the point of view of integrating photos in our system, recently such an offer came from a client who has his own deployed server for video hosting. He has IP mechanism and now it is planned to organize a directory of video cameras, linking them to filling stations, organizing the upload of photos to the event database, so that a window with photos at the beginning and at the end of issue can appear in a separate list when a transaction is highlighted. The same information can then be loaded and displayed in the 1C operator if necessary. Depending on the incoming requests, we will integrate various monitoring systems. There are no restrictions. If there are no questions about our server, I suggest you still switch over and look at the equipment of the Exzotron company, which we produce as part of automation project. The equipment of the Exzotron company is divided into two basic elements. These are refueling modules, through which automation of various objects and refuels can be carried out, and separately refueling dispensers in various designs. First of all, let's take a look at the refueling module. The basic filling module is the IFL 6.0 module. This is a versatile controller that enables precise filling. It has a built-in plastic card reader. It is used for almost any automation options for tankers or filling stations. When working with the device for moving the signal from the fuel meter, it is organized into a mechanism of controlling bounce, controlling the direction of rotation, thus eliminating errors when working with meters of PPO series. The photo shows various options from these modules for the automation of fuel dispensers, for automation of various fuel trucks. This is, for example, the automation of NABAR dispensers, self-assembly of one filling dispensers. The next position is Modules IFL 7.0. This is the same module IFL 6.0, only with a built-in element for removing a signal from the containers. In order to simplify its installation, there is no need to look at the place for installation. It has the same functionality. Here we see examples of implementation. The screens have removed the separated from above. Higher quality model IFL 5.0. It's already intended directly for outdoor placement under difficult operating conditions. The onboard GLONASS terminal, unlike previous models, is inside. There is also a backup bypass toggle switch inside the box. No additional switch is required. Just plugged in the cables and go the result. As an example, the options for using the module with PPO meters are shown. A value is installed, a device for recalling a signal from the fuel meter is installed, and options for working with volumes. Here are examples of installation. The client supplied a volumetric meter, a pulse generator, a valve with a filter, and hung IFL 5.0 boxes on top. Various use cases on tanker. There is an interesting basic position. This is the indicator which allows very high quality to remove the signal from the PPO series meters with control of direction of rotation. Almost all of our equipment is equipped with transmission elements for a cumulative total counter for 485 boards in the 1C protocol. So we have the ability on the server to have the same number that the operator sees on the screen, in which case we need it. If we want to achieve a situation so that the data in the monitoring system one-to-one reflects the data that is submitted in the primary document from the operator or the tanker driver, it is necessary to oblige the driver or operator to rewrite the meter readings at the beginning of the day and in the end of the day, display the difference in the total counter, and check himself against these records, which he makes in order not to make mistakes. After the introduction of the control technology according to the metadata, we achieve such a situation that the reporting of monitoring systems and the reporting that is submitted according to the primary documents will correspond one-to-one. Fuel dispensers. Today we have three basic models of cases. This is the mini model. For an example, I will show you the composition. There are options with an engine, a version with a volumetric meter. We have such boxes without pumps with volumes for use with external pumps, or economy options with the meters of the AGM25 series for organizing accounting. The second position is the horizontal modules IFL box. As an example, I will show you the options for their use either on tanks or on various objects with containers. Here we see examples of use on tanks. Vandal resistant designed with external hiding door. This position is also interesting for organizing the delivery of fuel from various module tanks. In case of need of power supply and long-term operation from low voltage, gas buzzer pumps were selected, which allows a continuous fuel delivery cycle, a voltage of 12-24 without overheating of the pumps. I think this is worth stopping at. If you have any more questions, I suggest asking them. Okay, no questions. That is it. Then, many thanks. If you have any questions related to equipment software, we are waiting for you in our Telegram group. So, goodbye.